I just got here. That's all I was calling about. Thank you. No. No, Geshe-la was with Geshe-la's teachings tonight. Okay. Hi, everyone. How are you? Geshe-la, good to see you.
Yeah.
남주에대입니다.
아,
그래서 남주에대입니다.
나를
남주에대 상황이 내에서 아까 좀
또 저는
당장어서 다시
룸부지가 이렇게 좀
그래서 분자가 돼서 그룹가게 됐어. Much better. It's not fully recovered, but I'm not. It's, I think this is a change of word.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Begin with the Heart Sutra in English. Thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son of a lineage train who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of a lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight and so on, until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so on, up to no old age and death, and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell on the three times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata om gate paragate parasam gate bodhi soha. Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva noble Avalokiteshvara that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of a lineage, it is so. O son of a lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, and the entire gathering, as well as gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Mamadang Gampo
Jesu Jabe Yama Jade Lo Kage Lo Jode Nye Nyeda Namda Rasalave Jene De Go Jeje Zichi Nije Tu Gale Base Kanda Sebe Tere Mari Medo Duna Jezere Roso Gula Pujir Tate Yala Kruju Yangde Son Broda Chero Nemo Nilo Leje Charo Leje Dumya Nyugu Jenye Cheze Radrena Dene Dajun Saju Dasu Yede Luzo Jase Tuyago Juda Juda Juni Jenju Dalo Mise Jabe Yana Arabasana O Arabasana O Arabasana Chera Je Daru Dimu Mabarasani Kada Dinju Julu Tobayi Rojo Bobe Nama Samu.
Continue with a short mandal offering on page 16. Saji Koki
Choshe Medo Dra Rera Leje Nide Nyebane Sanje Jindo Mide Bulwaye Robe Nanda Jena Jeparasho
Jetsun Nama
Tamba Jena Je Chegu Kala Jeze Tejene Jenda Zambi Zemana Saje Juje Charva Doso
Yetam Guru
Enamandala Kande Yatayame.
Continue with the reference prayer on page 22. Sanje
Chana Soje Chana Jaju Pardo Dani Jasoji Dage Chuche Jibe Sonamji Lola Benjure Sanje Ruparasho
Sanje
Chana Soje Chana Jaju Pardo Dani Jasoji Dage Chune Jibe Sonamji Lola Benjure Sanje Ruparasho
Sanje
Chana Soje Chana La Chanjo Pardo Dane Jasoji Dage Jibe Sonamji Lola Benjure Sanje Ruparasho.
이들 가바디 제샤 베게트 가바나 요로와 베게트
야야,
베 가바지 느낌으로 되나 기다 저로 그러나 인지되고
야야.
진짜 저거지
당도 대리 상대 쇼치나 대한 따도 챔피언로 세 피터 칼리스 대한 따도 챔피언로 대한 따도 챔피언로 다들 사바슈야데 timba hindu kulin jungs tana maarunda ngale yungso chashiye zone tena tato timpin jungs kasi mungso tenyang tato timpin jungs siya tenyang ko tenyang jungsa de karna ngale yungso tala lusun kanki na neban juwa pamba des ane lusun kato tere tesa ane lule neban juwa pamba des tena pamba la dek tada kaangi thokare zoina ane dribu mewe chepang pe dribu mewe chepang pe sayade shenjo do menju we chepang pangwaas ta kanda lue song du neban juwa pangya de shenjo do menju wa mayba shenjo do njui dondo ante lue neban juwa tsoda pangwore sayade pe tada pangwa de ane kanda kan thokar zoina kanda chini thokar zoina ane tenyang tato tenyang ane kadu yina tuyo tato soso tenbi tenshi yama teni ane thokar yasya wate kadu ti chebe.
So we're on verse 8, which it says, the purchase will be rich. So you actually do that by being mindful at all times. So what it is talking about, doing something that is being mindful. It's talking about the verse 7 itself. What is protecting the body, it is giving up what is harmful, and how this is attained by giving up all fruitless movement. So this must be done on the basis of maintaining mindfulness. That is what is meant by saying you actually do that by being mindfulness. So so as we have gone through that during our previous discussions, that when we talk about protecting one's body, we're talking about engaging in actions that are harmful to others. That is what is meant by protecting one's body. And abandoning the indulgence of actions that are fruitless, which is harmful actions towards others, and engaging in actions that are beneficial for others. Abandonment of the harmful actions and achievement of the attainment of the indulgence in the actions that are beneficial for others must be done on the basis of maintenance of mindfulness.
Tenyang tato tenbi lu tenpa sayade te kazi mazo drishe sosa kade chasang ndribi ngopo la seji jiba mepa te namba mayo ili jeno osne tenpa sayade da nambi chona shiyo nusambu loi chiraba jire loi chashi ji ene loi tera da nalpa chelo de seta senju nisne tenani da senju chiraba jire teleya tenpa sayade yuwa tang yu jen ning noni zuo yu jeng chan ne xe yung go re. Da tenpa ina tenpa singa tiga yu ji ten wu gu yuwa, yu ji ten bi chan ni ten yu jen tiga tenpa singa ta ruwa. Chidang dribi ngu la singa jeba me ba desi. Jeba ma jeba desa mana ko ma jeba ten wu gu yuwa chidang ten xin yang yang ten. Dan degi tenpa tiga kaan yu kaan tenpa na kandiri ten yu zuo laba song tere. Maa laba song siya te. Chida laba song liya ane tenpa teni tosun togo gore. Chida laba song siya te laba sungri ji laba as. Tene laba tingin siya laba shira ji laba as. O ta tenpa ki tene tenja ka yu, tenpa koro yu jenje. Teki tenja ka yu de ane laba song siya sha.
Such abandonment of this negative actions, or in other words, actions that are harmful to others, must be done on the basis of uh, maintaining one's mindfulness upon the three high trainings. So the mindfulness being subjective and three high trainings being objective. The mindfulness that is being mindful of is three high trainings. In other words, the mindfulness that is repeatedly bringing to the mind three high trainings without forgetting it. It does not allow the mind to be distracted from the observance of the three high trainings. This is the mindfulness, the particular mindfulness that we are talking about. And mindfulness is subjective, as you know, and this subjective is uh, is a mental factor. It is not actually primary mind, but rather it's a mental factor. Because you know, by looking at its nature and its functions, will tells us this is mental factor. It's not the primary mind. If you look at its functions or the nature of this mindfulness, is repeatedly bringing to mind a phenomena of previously acquaintance without forgetting it, or it does not allow the mind to be distracted from the object. So that is the function of this particular mindfulness. So therefore, it is a mental factor rather than primary mind.
다들 소는 너무 춘춘으로 지나 춘춘대야 안에 그래서 그래 제 소다기 춘춘네 이제 소소다버리 이제 간이 제배다 춘춘 요리 드나니 제 등장을 좀 자서서 어떤데 춘춘 드네 장세 간이 제배 소다다 장세 간이 제배 아니 장주스에 자동 좀 제는 이제 시로라서 봐 tena sungu yore, tena yege, ane ngāki mandi chena, ngāki mandi chena, ane zadung ju yena, bombo jela soba, o tena sungu yore, chesang tsundi mongbo tena yore, chesang soda kani shebe tsundi, chansi kani shebe tsundi, ngā kani shebe tsundi, mongbo shebe yore, chesang, da tsundi zayda zo, da kani sheshe yore, so ki, sungpa jilaya ane tsunting sila goyore. Jasan da laba songman zo tsunting laba shino zo da songgoyore. Jaten tsunting laba sangyo sambo ko soda kani shebe teya sanaji tangore. Ane chansi kani shebe teya sanaji tangore. Nga kani shebe teya sanaji tangore. Ta nale jiyo de soso ngane. Ane soso gaji soda chansi sama ataso 강이 끈이 기내 주고이나 엔데 소소게 대 기내 주다니 되서데 엔 최연도 또 송이나 엔 소소게 순진나네 제거래 순진 송스라고 그래.
So here now, out of those three high trainings, the trainings of the morality or the ethical discipline, the trainings in ethical discipline or the morality is the first, or it is also a basis upon which one can build the practice of concentration and wisdom. So the practice of morality or the observance of the morality actually serves as a foundations for practicing two other higher trainings. So when it comes to the practice of morality, suddenly there are, primarily there are three kinds of morality. The morality of pratimoksha, which is pratimoksha, which includes the precepts and the monastic precepts, such as particularly the bhikshu's precepts, which involves 253 observance of morality, and then there's another category of the morality, which is the morality of bodhisattvas. This is which consists of 18 root moral disciplines, followed by the 46 secondary moral disciplines. And similarly, we have sacred mantrayana, the morality of sacred mantrayana, which has 14 root vows and then 8 secondary vows and so on. So all of these vows are need to be observed depending upon that your commitment. If you are one is committed to engage in the morality of observing the morality of pratimoksha, one should know those pratimoksha's moralities of the pratimoksha, what is to be abandoned and what is to be adopted. Similarly, if one is taken a vows on bodhisattvas, and one should also understand just by saying that I received the bodhisattva's vow alone will not make oneself observer of the observance, someone who is an upholder of the bodhisattva's vows. So therefore, one should understand the 18 root vows and 46 secondary vows and so on, identifying those each and every one, and even observing those vows. Similarly, if one is taken a vows of the sacred Mahayana vows, then one should also understand those vows, each and every vows, to be able to identify those each and every vows, and to be able to, protect those vows and not letting this undergo degenerations. In brief, one should, observe whatever the morality that one is actually the moral discipline or the vows that one have received, and one is actually pledged to observe.
다 되는데 대적 선도 송하나 안에 템바디 키친 거래 다 되는데 송자기 순주다다 안에 템바디 바로 가는 데 거였나 자다모도 유제 템바다 안에 열려봐 송은 다 순주가 가시고 있어서 뭐 안에 되게 송자 때 말이야 집이 뭐 벌어 생이 집에 봐서나에 안에 송자 강이 마다 송무교가 강의마다 송무교가 강의마다 저대 소속에 아니 남도에 오지 시베진 도서다 진지하고 그래 저더러 안에 잼베기 송무교가 강의마다 시비 등이 안에 잼베기 맞아버지니 또 잼바고 송무고 그래 제가 말아도 니 천주송무도 와다 제 밤에 방황이는다 녀마마하기는다 내려하기는다 아니 천둥 뭐 차고 그러와 제가 내일도 저도 가르치는 거나 소소 강송자들이야 전시하고 때마도요 막이 전바하고 때마도요 막 전바할 때마도 그 시지가 마통 막이 전바대 강송자들이야 또是샤마도 막이 아니 제니 안들어야 하셔야 돼 나와게 천둥 뭐 차고 그러와 송자도 송마도 또是니방고 연구하러 제가 대도 그 라니가 강송부한테 잼비가 맞아버지니 제가 남으로도 또 잼비가 존이 그래서 내가 주지고 나야 지 브라자니도 강가이네요 또 강송부한테야 잼비가 존이 안도서 대양한테 잼비가 대송고요다 메시지가 잘하지게 또 도스지네 당보다 가고야 비례비야 고만이 근데 가디네 또 세체바 아니 소소 강송부야 때가 내가 샤도가 있나 아니 천천히 차와야지 가서버려 또 라다지 도와주는 거예요.
So this practice of morality must be perfected by maintaining perfect mindfulness. So without maintenance of my mindfulness, the practice of morality will not, the pure practice of morality is not possible. So therefore, mindfulness plays a very critical role uh, in in observing one's morality. So when once one has taken the vows, then one should understand very, very precisely about about the vows, how what in what manner that one should be observing the vows. And the observed vow must be identified and understand. So without just taking vows and without knowing the vows, what is to be observed and what is to be abandoned, then one will not be able to, you know, uh, have a practice. One will not be able to have a practice of morality, pure practice of morality. So therefore, understanding of what is to be observed, the vows, what is to be observed must be must understand, which is critical to understand this vows. So, so normally what happens with us is we are unable to, observe one's vows, and we are doing something that is against one's vows, or that becomes a cause for degeneration of one's vow. Is we are taking either we are taking so lightly, or we're not really applying. We're not, implementing our mindfulness. It is for this reason we are not being able to observe the vows. And if we are not implementing this mindfulness with regard to observance of one's vow, then the mental introspection will not be active. So if one is unable to, if one's mental introspection is not very active, so then this will one will not be able to, detect that the actions that cause one's degeneration of one's vows and so forth. So therefore, our when we take the vows, and the vows must be, when we take the vows, it's just vows must be identified. What is to be observed and what is to be abandoned, having received the vows, whatever the vows that one may have received, either be it as a Pratimoksha vows, Bodhisattva's vows, the Prachayana vows. So whatever the vows that one may have received, one should identify it, and one should understand it and take it very seriously, and should not think the vows as one should not view those vows very lightly, or one should not, have and take it very lightly. Rather, one should take very seriously, and think of how important it is for one to actually observe those vows.
자, 당에 공원에 먼저 송자 타가져야 돼. 난 남비쇼노 시에야 돼. 타가져고래. 소다다 장세상아. 소다 그니 소다가 리지에서래. 소다가 리지 그래서 소소게 반자 소소니요래. 소다가 리지에서야 돼. 니니세 저래. 니니 세저래. 네 geni pamani serjere neni geni pamana ane gesu pamani serjere neni geni pamana gesu pama ane gelo ma serjere puadere ane gelo pamani jene ote jene ya anso ta reje sore to so jego so le panja manda dena panja ma shwede ane gelo ma de ma shwede gelo ma de ante jole gelo pare odos je 소다 그래 안 소자 마보래 어디 계산 단지 송자대 영어서 네 제베 왕게 송자나 라인지 가나 마도 와서 제베 가나 마도 라인지 가나 마도 와서 단자요 제가 배나면서 쏘아줘 봐 메세야 메쏘아줘 봐 놓지나 제베 가나 마도 와야 라인지 가나 마도 와 내가 용거래 제베 가나 마도 와서 돼 산지기네 데 제롱을 데 제롱을 말했네 집안나시 제래야 집에 가는 마도 왔어 그래 라게 가는 마도 와서 산지기 집안 만나와 있나요 제가 안에 롱바 소소하게 튼다 되냐고 타냐 뭐 좋아하더래요 되려 라게 가는 마도 왔어 그래 제가 마세바 로지제나 집에 가는 마도 와야 라게 가는 마도 와야 그래 제가 뭐 롱바가 나래야 집행서 맨날 쇠초에 말로 쇠는 특이 있어 그러와 와드는데 라게 가는 마도 와 안에요 라게 가는 마도 이게 집에 가는 마도 많이 된다요래 그냥 기능이 나트잖아 산지기 제가 기능이 나트잖아 와드는 요거로 와드는 제가 다간다 가이나 간다 소소하게 말이야 손자 간다 가이나 대야 고지 시베 제고 이 친구래 제가 그런 순리지라고 하도 순리 등나가 제 남비기 시작하고 순리다 안에요 주로 현다게 시에서 순리 된다요래 단행이들만 쉬어야 되다 남비기 쇼 손샤적인 순리 대조하지네 또 쉬어요래 제가 저대야 이제 야고나 소도 야고 신주제 근데 신주제 야고 시반제 근데 대시들은 제래야 소소대 최연도 야고 좀 송고고요 저는 송하라 근데 tempada 같은 거 이제 제가 대 재미가 들이 뭐지 말해
니네 들 포다 못 쓰여래.
이거는
니네
얘네들은 보면
그거 매로. 특히 니네
괜히 봐만
밤에 계속 밤에 결혼 밤에
봐만 근데 결혼만
결혼 밤에지.
결혼마스 결혼마
결혼마
결혼마데 다 뭐이 때문에 보이더래요 말이 다 그들 마데 네 결혼마 루트를 말도 바로 야
결혼 하다 많이 쉬어 간다.
그래
결혼 밤에니 계속 밤에니
어데
아니
계속 가면
개인 밤에니
밤에
아니
네네지 결혼마지
라
결혼마
어때? 도마대 산 것은
결혼마데 결혼마다 결혼 파닉 바로래
났어.
때 말마다 팔마다
났어.
결혼마데 근데 결혼마 누가라 때 바로 찾아서는 거지 나한테 결혼마사
났어. So here, when it comes to the pratimoksha, there are primarily 8 kinds of pratimokshas. Pratimoksha moralities. 8 kinds. The first is the nyene in Tibetan, which means the vows that is to be taken for 24 hours. This is the first. And then first, this is one. And then second is the lay vows, male vows and females, which becomes 3. And then the novice male and female vows, and then fully ordained, or the bhikshu and bhikshuni, the vows of bhikshu and bhikshuni. And there's another female vows which is taken between after having taken, this is only for the females, which is taken the vows or novice vows, and before receiving the vows of fully ordained vows, in other words, the bhikshuni vows, there is one intermediate period, which is also the time of investigations. Because the Bhikshunis has more vows to be observed than the Bhikshu. So therefore, the Bhikshunis, once they have taken the novice vows, then they should take their time to see whether or not if they are capable of receiving the fully ordained vows. So there's one intermediate period. That is what we call. There's also another vows. So with this, there are 8 kinds of pratimoksha vows. So
I'm counting 6, so what am I missing?
there's one 24 hours, the lay female and male and female,
Oh, they
3,
female, okay.
and then novice male and female, 5, right?
Okay.
And then fully ordained male and female, and then intermediate period, which is only for the female vows. This is a female vows. So now here, even when we look at those vows, there are vows that is to be taken. If one breaks those vows, it is naturally become a negative, become a negativities. The actions are negative actions, such as, in other words, there's a naturally, the actions that will become a naturally negative actions, or actions that will become negative if one has taken vows. In other words, there's a vows that is a proscribed, and then natural vows and the proscribed vows. If one takes, for instance, if one takes a life of others or kills something, that is not the proscribed vows. It is a negative act. So it's naturally become a negative act. And then, as a result of Buddha's analysis on whether or not it is good for, whether or not it is appropriate for the monks to, take a meal after lunch and so forth, is a proscribed. So it is not taking, taking a meal after lunch is proscribed, and is not naturally negative deeds. If one has taken a vows, not taking after lunch, and this is completely completely okay for us. But if one has taken vows that is not taking the meals after lunch, then one is breaking the vows. It may become negative deeds. So therefore, when you look at the vows, there are some becomes naturally negative deeds, and there are negative deeds that is a proscribed. The vows that is to be observed is a proscribed vows and natural vows.
자, 내가 dendevi tsundi tada ane sungsen dang denbi kansa te tsundi tada denba asira wale tsundi denba geno yoda dene tsundi denba tanju dewa towa sa ane chana tsundi tada denba asira sanko dendevi tsundi tada sungsen dang denbi kansa tada tsundi tada denbi kansa asira wale chana laba tsundi laba asira de chana Javan soso jogeda, then tsunti sumi logic shawo, tenere, then Tanibad lava things the lava sadre, things in lava sad, things sad, Tabian was an budget become on the show and Soda, Shania sadre, Shania sade, things that Nani Yashu de Shania sade, then 마트벽에 시와이나 안베게 지르네 때만 더 봐서야로 지른 다시 봐서야로 된다게 내수들의 저 지른 때만 지른 다시 말이나 지른 공원이 소소게 되네 로이 또스 몽텔에 뭐샤니 소소 제상 되지 봐도 제선 되지 봐도 어느 로 모바텔에 무효 같지니 또 제선 되지 봐도 저도be 된다게 로 내고 차고 좀 뭐지 다 잡아서 그러잖아 마트비 그리시나 지금 때마다 봐도 지금 다 잡아 바지도 그 시나잖아 아니 시네 더 봐서 어디를 저한테 대양 또 띵은 질러 봤어야 돼 소소 줄을 용구에 지래 소소 줄이야 소소의 줄이야 뭐가 가나 아니 소소의 로 샤비 까래야 아니 가라서 그래 주마 마이비 그래 주마 마이비 마네 다가나 시내잖아 아니 신장지 집에 거니 아니 라기 못발라 아니 베베를 주 띵엔서 사나시게 대다지까지 줘서나 아니 라기 줄에 띵엔서 체내지 제일 거래 대내지 마요 받으라고 줄에 띵엔서 틈이 요이네요 체내는 거지 체내서 그래 다바게 제세로만 거지 신의 세로만 거지 뭐에 말원 어때래 자 띵엔데 자 된다기 되니 뭐봐 파가 요래 지지도 줘봐야 제마다 되어요. 저는 제마비 파게 아니 무대 간 도로 지지도 도로 좋아해. 제비가 좀 시지가 잘하지는 도로 오라자 내도 라바팅한테 잡아야 아니 대한다도 제비로 세대 라바송네 띵한테 라바라 아니 제마다 시지 때네 아니 대목을 해서 하게 돼.
So then, the individual who identified the vows and who is not only identified vows and who is strictly observing the vows is said to be the holder of vows. Otherwise, just by taking the vows and not even care about identifying the vows and let alone observing the vows, it's not a person, individual who is upholder of the vows. To become oneself as upholder of the vows, one should, having received the vows, one should seriously identify those vows and observe those vows. It's very important. This again requires mindfulness. And then, so then the next high trainings is the high trainings of the concentrations. And concentrations here, concentrations in accordance with the Sutrayana system, and concentrations, the perfect concentrations, or the shamatha, in other words, in accordance with Vajrayana system, particularly the Hatha Yoga Tantra or the Anuttara Yoga Tantra system. So here, the first, in accordance with the Sutrayana system, it is a shamatha. Shamatha is one identifies the achievement of the perfect shamatha is the actualization of concentrations. Whereas Tantra, and particularly the Hatha Yoga Tantra, this perfect concentration is to someone who perfected the generation stage. So this practice of both shamatha in accordance with the Sutrayana and practice of the perfection of this generation stage are both done on the basis of application of mindfulness and an application of mental introspections. And this, on the basis of this application of mindfulness, and then again, this concentrations either be it as a, concentrations in accordance with the Sutrayana or the concentrations in accordance with the Mantrayana. All of these two must be, achieved on the basis of application of mindfulness here. And the perfect concentration is not only that one is able to remain one's mind single-pointedly upon the object of meditation alone will become a pure concentrations or the perfect concentrations. Perfect concentrations of the shamatha must be, achieved on the basis of achievement or the accomplishment of the mental and physical suppleness. Without achievement of mental and physical suppleness, just mere remaining one's mind on the object of meditation or the chosen object of meditation alone will not make one's meditation as a perfect concentration on the shamatha. So all of this requires a mindfulness. So therefore, in the text it says everything that whatever that it says, you actually do that by being mindfulness at all time, which is a very very important message. The important emphasis that is given here by the Shantideva, saying that everything that you do requires mindfulness. Either one is, engaging in the practice of morality, that requires mindfulness. Whether one is engaging in the practice of shamatha or the concentrations, that requires mindfulness suddenly. And then similarly, if one engages in the practice of the wisdom, requires mindfulness. So mindfulness plays a key role in our practice.
나는 이거요. 전바다 띵엔즈니데 생주 소소니르다. 전바 생에데 바게 요데 간에 요데다 소로고 소미하는 거지. 띵엔즈야데 로데 대간이야. 아니 제지도 제 세차다 마샤되면 제지도 내야 된다게 챌린지가 생기지. 전바 생에데 tendenza che io ho tendenza che tingenze ni faccio dito sono dire cioè trembata tingenze dana io sento ziade ko sonsenje tena sono la sonja che io ho ane che sonse parlo quani dito jangre trembake tospa io gente io vanno pa già ci non sarà pa tutto jangre vade trembace otogene todia sanai chisawa namata sunje ta temba tingenze ta temba otode sin sosoni yare.
So here now, mindfulness and concentrations are suddenly as a two different mental factors. There's a chances we may get, confused between the two, but those two are, suddenly different mental factors. Similarly, observation of moralities. When we are observing moral disciplines, not that a person or the body is that is not observing. The actual observer of the morality is the mind, again, mental factor. The mental factor that observes, that prevents oneself from engaging in this, engaging in negative deeds or the deeds that are against the vows are said to be the morality. So therefore, however, the mindfulness here plays a critical role in observance of one's morality, and mindfulness also plays a very critical role in practice and concentrations. But they are all the different mental factors.
대한 돈이 모두 비시라 되네지래 제상 단디 신앙이 지리에 요구해지래 돈이 모두 비시라 신앙 토세에 지리야 니 샤라 소리 딩에 되세요 제상 신앙 하동니데 강사직 줄에 지르는 것도 지어도 용을 신앙 지어버려 신앙 토버려 신앙 마토발라 아니 돈이 모두 비시라 세도 용식 말해 제상 드네이도 신앙 정만에 아니 내를 때 관한 뭐 손도 또 시름 줄이야 아니 시름 줄라 봐스 제가 대형 소소 줄에 지야 용이 지고야지 기계에서 이제 강사직 줄에 대해 그거들도 또 모두 시름 써야 돼요 로지래 생주지래 생주나니 라인을 제발 집에 지레지 생주 시름 되네지래 제가 담아드릴 거는 시원은 또 저런에 그스 용거를 좀 배지 된주에 사세하고 강다장 돈은 것도 비시러지래 막 그러지도 돈은 것도 비시러지 저런에 그스 당말레는 어느 지는 생각을 말레는 어디나 말레미 가는 지는 시에나 저런에 그스 좀 배지 된주에 사세하 카드도 용거를 다시 드릴게나 아니 통화 받치면 항상 어디나 그래요 저 되는데다 나바시를 나바 만약에 또는 왜 대래 제가 된다기 나바시를 나바대야 아니 재미를 들었더니 랑줄에 제고 동문말이야 지여당 유진이 바로 재미를 또송 안되다니 준비 신내가 좋아지 생기는 대등이 아니 준비도 소요를 집어지니 아니 무슨 또한 무슨 베스트라 또스 줄지는 그러나 라면줄이야 라바시라지로가 또 줄지 말해 어디네 이제 대한 tem바다 되어야 되는지
So then the third high trainings of wisdom. So here in the high trainings of the wisdom and the wisdom realizing emptiness, and that too refers to the direct realization of wisdom, direct realization of emptiness. So not just being realized, not a conceptual realization of emptiness, rather here the high trainings of the wisdom refers to the wisdom realizes emptiness or the ultimate nature of reality directly. So in order to again gain the direct realization of emptiness, the achievement of perfect shamatha or the concentration is important. It is first perfecting one's concentrations or achieving shamatha. Then on the basis of achievement of this actualization of shamatha, one then practices, one then practice to realize emptiness, in other words, generation of wisdom realizing emptiness. And then on the basis of this shamatha, when one generates the wisdom that ascertain emptiness or the ultimate nature of reality directly, then one achieved what we call special insight or the vipassana. And that is what we call the high trainings of the wisdom. And that too is again, is mental factors, not the primary mind. And so this special insight in accordance with the special insight that we're talking about at this time, we're talking on the in accordance with Sutrayana system, the Sutra system. But when if we go to this Tantra system, particularly the high yoga Tantra system, this special insight will be actualized only when one perfects one's practice of completion stage, or Rinpoche with Dengyu, which means the meaning clear light, the fourth stage meaning clear light. When one gains the fourth stage meaning clear light, one then gain this special insight. And all of this are done on the basis of application of mindfulness. And mindfulness really plays a critical role in emptiness and the wisdom realizing emptiness. Between the two, mindfulness plays a very critical role in here.
지난 대한 따도 템비 그룹스 템비 그룹한테 빨라고 손라 템바다 시기 야고 템바이나 근데 공안이야 내가 저 공안이 되게 강이 터지는 리듬이 제방비 대한 따도 템비 그룹스 제달라고 손라 근데 템바야고 템바이나 근데 공안이야 뇌죠 터다 방토한테 근데 뇌소통한테 용거리에스 어도스행거나
So if one is able to apply, if one is able to maintain this mindfulness, then the verse 7 that we discussed earlier about here, what is protecting the body? It is giving up what is harmful. And how is this? How this is attained? By giving up all fruitless movement. And you actually do that by being mindful at all times.
단디마 돈을 주는데 도달을 주시는 가슴 걸나 소소하게 대시 때니 소소 줄을 이거 대해요 때니 천도야 보소 땡은들라 되네 뉴모기 자 코이자 단지 아니 단지 매바 송에 되니 니고 쳐도 줘봐 아니 라바 히르지 라바 아니 란줄에 제도 다그레스 대베지 중앙이나 한 소소리야 지 르레야 아니 네바주아티 용마레스 어토스모에서
So in brief now, by maintenance of one's mindfulness, one perfect one's practice of morality, practice of concentrations, and one is able to engage in the practice that enables one to generate direct remedy towards the root of cyclic existence, which is wisdom realizing emptiness. And so all of this, these three high trainings can be perfected or will be perfected on the basis of application of mindfulness.
정세당 만이기 거래야 하는 이 나기 로이 등이 자는 것 통해서 또 가요 거래. 제가 달령아 예송도니 자는 것 지하데 가요 거래야. 근데 자는 고송도니 자는 것 좀 맞잖아. 자는 것 제사 그 거래. 자는 것 맞잖아. 소소래 제가 되지 마도 아니 지금 동에 세지 요식 말아. 어디 렉처니 말아.
So here is observing this the vows of the Pratimoksha enables one to engage in observance of the vows primarily regarding one's body and speech. Whereas observance of the morality of bodhisattva vows, the Bodhisattva and the Tantrayana, primarily engages in the observance of the morality with regard to mind. In brief, by taking vows of pratimoksha, sorry, in English, I forgot to translate this in English, it's just individual liberation vows, which pratimoksha, which prati, which individual moksha is vows in Sanskrit, which is individual liberation vows. By taking the individual liberation vows, Bodhisattva's vows, sacred Mantrayana vows, and observing them, one is engaging in the actions of the body, spirit, the positive actions or the virtuous actions of the body, speech, and mind. If one is able to engage one's actions of the body, speech, and mind, that is virtuous, then the result will be achieved. The result will be achieved in accordance with one's own wish, because we wish to achieve happiness, which is everlasting happiness. So that is the wish that we have. In order to, if we are wishing to achieve this everlasting happiness, one should engage in the cause that that produces the lasting happiness.
Tanto che karma so ina ma pasando bote maranzo che ndoya che ci prudata mande dunga ngwata de shewore chaza che leu to ni de na ya boya mare ma gun de mana ya boya mare yeji gun de sana ya boya mare se kala wona maranzo de jin de yu chane an de chi gi de che se de juda chen de yo mo yo sa cho de chin de na Jotele Pinada Gores, Demonsola to Jabore, Chara Dungan Dugundo, Dungan Munduna, and then Legion de Chejumar, Majibun de Chejumar, Ejibun de Chejumar, and then Mundu Dungan de Muyu Chedo, and the Japata de Sungorja, the Dosun de so the Maranzo de Chedrueta, Maranzo Mundu, Maranzo de Chedruta, Maranzo Mundu Dungan, and then Guadant so.
So all these moralities or the vows that we are asked to observe is not something that someone is imposing upon one, and some authorizations in authorizing one to observe that and making some kind of law. But rather, this is a natural, it is the fact that the reason why we're taking vows is we long to achieve happiness and overcome suffering. Without engaging in those vows and observing those vows, suddenly the happiness that we long to achieve is not possible, right? Because if we let our body, speech, and mind, actions of the body, speech, and mind, carelessly let it to let this, take our body, speech, and mind, take these actions carelessly, then we engage in all kind of actions, what we are doing, which we are doing right now, and we have been doing that. It is therefore we have never been able to achieve the happiness that we long to achieve, right? So therefore now, what it is saying here is now, what we long to achieve, we long to achieve happiness. What we are trying to avoid is trying to avoid sufferings. If that is so, you should engage in the actions that becomes the cause for one's happiness, and engage in the actions that becomes the cause for elimination of one's sufferings. So therefore, suffering and happiness is not something that doesn't come into being from nowhere. It has its own causes and conditions. And causes and condition, without accumulation of causes and conditions, and result is not possible. So therefore, the reason why we are the primary reason, or the main reason why we are actually engaging in observance of those vows of the body, speech, and mind, is to achieve happiness.
Tende David Dejetea, Maranzo Zajegi, Dejeta Mayamba, Tend Dejesate, Budanzo, Nabishono, Dejudan de Zoda, Tend Dejudan, Ketalan de Dembore, David Dumesia, Tise, Dumebata Mayamba, Pe David Dume, Demesoyaki, Talan Sonore, Jazan. 마다양도 제대발이야 낸 나사님 비그라 메지사니 아니 내가지 다베선다 아니 하지 칼라자도 말로 내가지래 나사 파베는 단다 많이 베제 대지디네 베 땐 대지지 도당게 타마송고래라 만데베 동네디네 베 때문에 소야게 소당게 근데 타마지 손대고래 나도 좀 손다 도세.
So in accordance with the Buddha Dharma, when we speak about achievement of happiness, we're not talking about the worldly happiness or the temporary happiness. We're talking about the everlasting happiness or the ultimate state of happiness. And we're engaging in all kind of actions, all kind of practice, which becomes a method and skillful means of achieving those happiness. Then similarly, when we speak about overcoming suffering, we're not talking about just temporary overcoming suffering, the suffering that's temporarily overcome. This is not what we are talking about here. We're talking about eliminating this overcoming, or eliminating the sufferings, uprooting the sufferings, not just something that actually alleviates one's pain for a couple of hours, just like taking painkillers and so on. This is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about uprooting the sufferings and pains. And how do we do this? Is then the process of doing, engaging in this practice of overcoming those sufferings and achieving happiness is taught in the three high trainings.
Mare loyo jebina shongla da jina tusan gongson yama tawa sikro chasang tuba je se da loyo je to mo loyo te jiba je ane tene samba je se so tubi twende ya ya to sa ni jiba na ane so so be je de ane tare ya to se be gomni ane rang de to ba je ni o do je ne be lo ni lo ane be jiwa be kache kabe chumde nirani ne kache tabe sole ya ane tsasa wa yin se woro jida ten reji ni rinbe kale jani ane to se je tenwe dewa toya tang mendebe dungi teme so ya to se na ya jire me to lansa mo so shindu ya jiba ya ane nambi shono go tenda jiba ge tenwe dewa yu duya yore dungi teme so ya yore se ya ten dewa se 지금 송발에 스니 지역에 대담지를 봐 논산에 되네 줘야서는 왔다 지금 아까 다는데 지 소소 문제치도 두고도 남아야 봐 베르비 조르비라는 지스라니 또 소소라니 베 지다 가르쳐 그래 제도가 싫어야네 담을 열어와 안전한 제도가 싫어다 냥도 유대들 전에 담을 열어 봐도 도스 소르비그라니 아니 도스 때나파니 도디야기 추스체레마도 야데 롱자라 때니 도디야서 때마레.
So to do that is not really easy. It requires a rigorous studies, listening to the Dharma, contemplations and meditations. It is by receiving the teachings of the Dharma, and just not by receiving the Dharma teachings of becoming expert in Dharma, but rather internalizing those Dharma is very important. Just, acquiring this informations and to be able to explain about the Dharma and to be able to, numerous in the categories of the different teachings of the Dharma alone is not a Dharma practice. It is called Dharma expert. And we have to differentiate between the Dharma expert and Dharma practice is different. Someone who goes through the teachings and knows how to explain is not going to be a good practitioner. Good practitioner must receive the teachings. While receiving the teachings, one must receive wholeheartedly. And whatever the meanings of the teachings that is understood by oneself must be contemplated. This will then be followed by meditations. Then only one will be able to gain what we call the spiritual realizations. Gaining spiritual realization is not something that is easy. It's not easy at all. It requires years and years, life after life, even great eons. For example, if you look at the Buddha himself has said that he has gone through the accumulation of merits and the purification of negativities for 3 great eons. Not the 3 countless great eons. So similarly, we are not different. We are as the followers of Buddha Shakyamuni who are followers of his footsteps. We also think of that way. So therefore, according to the Buddha Dharma, when we speak about the everlasting happiness, it's not something that somebody has said, as somebody has actually written in the text, or the scriptures have said this and that, but rather this achievement of everlasting happiness is primarily based on the on the reasonings. It has a very strong reasoning behind it. It is not just someone has said that, and someone has said that, and some mighty beings has stated that you have to follow that. This is not, however, is not the way of Buddha's teachings. It is rather, analyzed by the discernment, the wisdom of discernment. And all of these teachings, achievement of happiness and overcome sufferings, are based on the reasonings and based on application of the wisdom of discernment. Questions? Anyone has questions? Yes,
Just an observation that doing this is maybe the hardest thing that any of us could ever possibly take on. It takes a long time and you see very little progress. Or none.
Rikayini jiwa du, jiwa judu, tendani sanju komo du jitu yungu yore, shona son yore. Rikayini ji kachitamem, sona sola sonda yama, tendayang, gangi tendaya yungu yore. Chetanda kandar jang, tazo tsama de, soso muni, mbete jana jige, chebare mato, shengi, chondere jingagare, chondere jingagare isni, rāngyāvāra, tsutuvāra wātanda yodhēnga sāgāyā vāra. Chidā ngārāntu yinā jī kāli jana tsendara ya rāyūna sāñi kōgō tōtō vāra. Tā ngāchūwa yinā kānta sōsō kāli jīvī kī rājī tēndē yuwa jirē. Tēnā yinā ngārāntu jī kāru jīgī kārsa pēnchū ya jī tāngāla lō mōmbō chāgī tēnī 도스 진에 내가 지고도 내가 말한서 때도 내가 동의지 미잖아 대리장도 마보지 책이 되니 얘는 텐데르게 마주와이 가서 시각을 사시고 마주와이네 제가 지만 나서 소소한테 제약이 다르지 제고 제 다르지 않는데 거는 소나요 선두소 어느 방에 땡행들을 라바티 라바나네제 라바팅엔지 라바나네제 라바시르지 라바나네 도스 제게나 어느 거 도스 지완이 지완주니 어느 도스 고 드나나네 제통이 또 연구로 나중에서 다시 저저 사람 어느 매일에 대해서 보여 도와라 은처를 나부터 시켜서 제소가 도와지 몰아주면 뭐参加 어도스 제네 된다고 주소서 뭐지 소가 들어있는 안은 도스 물에 더 송고요 봐 어디든지 단단 센데야 소소 나를 간도 제도 이제 근데 저 지만 나서 된다 뮤트는 제도야 다른 것에 남고 이렇게 정도 어디든지 되죠.
So here now, according to the Dharma, when we talk about the happiness, is we talk about the ultimate state of happiness, that is the lasting happiness. And when we speak about overcoming the suffering, suffering is not something that we're temporarily relieving from suffering or the elevation from suffering, but the complete elimination of suffering, right? Certainly it requires a lot of time. Think about if one is trying to uproot some kind of sickness that one has. And that sickness is not just taking one medication alone. It's not enough, but it requires, if we follow a lot of advices, it's like observing morality, where we follow the physician's advice, and whatever the advice the physician is given, one need to follow that and take the medication on time in accordance with the advice given by the physician. Then only will we be able to get rid of one's sickness. In the same manner, when it comes to the achievement of everlasting happiness or overcome sufferings, that also requires a lot of process. That's a lot of processes. However, when we talk about someone who need to achieve an enlightenment, that requires the accumulation of merits and purifications for three great countless eons. It is not really required for all beings. It depends upon one's own practice, how diligent one is. It depends upon one's own faculty here again, one's own intellect. There are, lower intellect, intermediate, or the mediocre intellect, or the great intelligent. So it really depends on one's own intelligence. And let's take an example of the very example that we could take is the Milarepa, who gained his complete enlightenment within his brief lifetime by engaging in his practices and so on. So it all depends upon the practitioner, him or herself. So therefore, if you look at even in the teachings, particularly the teachings of Sacred Mantrayana, where it says one can, if possible, if one is a really good practitioner, then one could be able to achieve enlightenment within one's brief lifetime. If it's not possible, within 7 lifetimes, 16 lifetimes, and so on. And if that's not, then there are who it requires more, like a 3 countless eons and so on, so on and so forth. So it is entirely depends upon the practitioner, him or herself. It is not just if if you want to, if you long to achieve complete state of happiness or complete state of enlightenment, it requires accumulations of merits and purifications for 3 great countless eons. This is not applied to all beings. It entirely depends on the practitioner, him or herself. And so for us, we have to prepare ourselves, but we have to hope for the best to achieve enlightenment within one's lifetime. If that is not possible, whatever the practice one may do, one's practice should become a preparation for the enhancement of development of practice in one's future life again here. At this point, one should know that one has gained such a precious human life, with a perfect human life, with 10 freedom and endowments and so forth. And with this, I will make good use of this precious human rebirth and engage in the practice of morality, concentrations, and so forth, so that I can have when I gain a human rebirth in my next life, my practice will be better, because based on the seeds or the imprints that I have, and I have imprinted in this life. So this is how we should prepare ourselves, because this accumulation of practice of morality, observance of the morality, and practice of giving and so forth will become a supporting factor for giving rise to our positive future rebirth, or the fortunate rebirth in the future. And this, not only that, but then this requires a pure aspiration or the prayers, which actually connects one's this life to the future life, to have a better life. So therefore, all of this, the practices are for us is to prepare ourselves to develop furthermore of one's practice and realizations. So aiming towards complete state of enlightenment.
Then also young to say Lord Jim Bikaria, Moto Kichigi Karan Nabishon Masun Bikaria, Junsedi Jimmy Soso, Nevada Kichimotini Amitawre, Shona Jijore, Nini Jiju Marisne, Toas Cinema, Tanamo Bikaria, and so many Alin Dejina, and then Karium Goyana. The Majana, Karium Goyana, Sergio, Tej Mijimonso, or Never Kanamadu Tambo into Junzero Jimena, and then Sosogi, Lodi, Tetole Jatamaji, Tentuguyaman, Jazan, and the Junzera Hokana, and Soto, that the money less Judea in Duasan, and then Tetol Lodi, Jaja Tapatanto, you were one. Jazan Soso, Jindabana was a day of a Jaja Tapatanto, Juna, and so the children. Nalaya was jet to have it. In Romeo or some, but it has also the Tenajuana, Latinino Chanduina, and Tetolia, Nalaya which go to Mare. That they do Conshona, Nabil Shonama, to us, Nadian Sun Bicale, and a rebut origin, to us, Son Whereas on the rebut origin, Son is book that was just in a Roan, Naju, that. Desaka Naju Churanalia 다들 당하면서 뭐 내인데 미치르스 나마이데 나마이 미치르스 또 요새 그것도 하고 또 대표 하자게 무슨 진행이 차리나 하자 기침 뭐래 제가 또 도래요 그래서 동남아서 제가 기침을
So teachings, when you look at the teachings of the Buddha Dharma, the Buddha Dharma is primarily, the teachings of the Buddha, in other words, is primarily based on reasonings. And for us as a followers of the teachings of the Buddha Dharma, followers of the Buddha's teaching, in other words, we should not just read the scriptures, reading the teachings of reading the Dharma text, but by reading it, one should contemplate and look at the reasonings, to find the reasonings. Not just, some scriptures have said this and that. We have to contemplate, we have to think ourselves and come up with the reasonings. So, particularly for us as initial practitioners, just by reading the text for one time is not adequate. It is not just we're reading, casual book or some kind of novel or the fictions. Just read and you know the history, you know the story of that, and you know the actual contents of what is being described in this book. But rather, in the Dharma text, when we read, even if being able to read one page, we can repeat that one page over and over again, and contemplate and think, and think a reasoning by yourself. And so, therefore, in all those texts, whatever, regardless of what kind of text there may be, how profound there may be, it's always requires the reasonings. Whatever the teachings that are giving, there must be reasonings. And reasoning is not just as someone has actually, some higher beings has said that is the reason. It's not enough at all. In the Dharma, Buddha Dharma is something that should actually go along with the reality. It should withstand with the reality. So therefore, in the monastery, the scholars or the monks who are actually studying Dharma, years and years of debate. It's not just sharpening their intellect, but rather they're actually wanting to know about the reasoning that how the reasoning that their other person is giving, and how effective that reasoning is, how helpful and supported of that reasonings for their practices. So therefore, it's all, if you look at the teachings of the Buddha Dharma, it's always based on reasonings.
So we should say the dedication prayers. Beginning with prayers after teaching on page 23 and 24. Continuing with auspicious wishes on page 28. Dagi jine sape
Yawade Nenandrova Kola Jebara Jusu Losanta Vaye Tebe Nivorindo Saje
Saji Puki
Loshe Leto Dera Neye Nide Yevadi Sanje Yendo Vide Buai Rogananda Yana Shepasho
Kewa Kundu
Yanda Lama Dame Juje Pela Juje Sadana Juje Tera Vaje Changi Yoga Yoto
Yelam Guru
Pranamena Lagane Adayame
Jesun Lami Kuse,
Radenje Nagadele Joju Devana, Rosan Timbi Treme Samoji, Troye Meseta Ne Guruji.
Kagri Vavre,
Kore Jimansu Pedan Deva Mare Juvene, Jiri Zuman Dile Jagoyi, Yabe Sete Padu Tenguruji.
Chapel Power,
Cheta Chepana, Ludo Sambo Deyan Dejene, Teda Kunji Jesu Daluji, Gewa Teda Tamchero Tomo, Jesu Jebe Jawa Tamcheki, Moa Kala Chodo Mabane, Dagi Give Zawan Deguji, Sambo Jejero Tomo Waraji.